I see you. Yes, you, sitting there, believing your best years are behind you. I see the exhaustion in your eyes when you look in the mirror. I see how you've convinced yourself that the woman you once were, that radiant being who could light up a room, is gone forever. And I'm here to tell you something that might shake you to your core. You're not aging. You're dimming your own light. And if you continue down this path, you will wake up one day and realize you've become invisible, not just to others, but to yourself. I am Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and I have spent my life in caves and under starlight, unraveling the mysteries of existence, studying the sacred texts that reveal how energy flows through this universe. I have witnessed transformations that defy what your rational mind believes possible. And today, I'm going to share with you a truth so profound, so practical, that if you apply it daily, you will not just feel younger. You will reclaim the essence of who you were always meant to be. But first, let me paint you a picture. It's Tuesday evening. You're standing in your kitchen, the same kitchen where you've prepared the thousands of meals. The light is that particular shade of gray that comes just before dinner. Your phone sits on the counter, silent. The house is quiet, too quiet. You catch your reflection in the window, and for a moment, you don't recognize the woman staring back. When did those lines deepen? When did your shoulders begin to curve inward, as if protecting a wound no one can see? You think about calling someone. But who? Your children are busy with their own lives. Your friends are managing their own struggles. And the man you once shared everything with? He's either gone, distant, or so familiar he no longer truly sees you. This is the moment, this precise moment, where most women make a choice that will define the rest of their lives. They either surrender to the dimming, or they remember who they truly are. Let me be brutally honest with you, because I did not emerge from years of study and meditation to sugarcoat what you need to hear. Right now, as you listen to these words, there are women in your very city who are doing what I'm about to teach you. They wake up each morning with purpose radiating from their being. They move through the world with a magnetic quality that has nothing to do with their age or their circumstances. And you want to know what's happening? The men who once overlooked them are now captivated. The opportunities that seemed to disappear are now appearing. Life is responding to them in ways that seem almost miraculous. And here's what should terrify you. While you're sitting there, trapped in the story of your diminishment, life is moving forward without you. That man you're hoping might notice you again? He's being noticed by someone else. That version of yourself you dream of reclaiming. She's slipping further away with each day you spend in resignation. The universe doesn't wait for us to be ready. It responds to the energy we emit. And right now, if you're honest with yourself, you're broadcasting defeat. I'm not saying this to wound you. I'm saying this because I care too deeply about your soul's potential to let you sleepwalk through the most powerful years of your life. You see, in Kabbalah, we teach that there are 10 emanations through which the divine light flows into this world. We call them the Sephirot. And here's what most people don't understand. These aren't just cosmic concepts floating in some mystical realm. These are actual energy channels that exist within you, within your very body and consciousness. When these channels are blocked, when the light cannot flow freely through them, you don't just feel spiritually disconnected, you literally age. You dim. You contract. Your skin loses its radiance not because of time, but because the light that once animated you from within is being obstructed. Now, I want you to imagine what I'm about to describe. Picture a woman. Let's say she's 53 years old, On paper, she's middle-aged. Society might want to tell her she's past her prime. But when she walks into a room, something happens. Conversations pause. Eyes are drawn to her. There's a quality about her presence that's undeniable. Is she the most conventionally beautiful woman in the room? Perhaps not. But she's the most alive. And I'm going to tell you exactly why, and more importantly, how you can become that woman. But before I give you the practices that will change everything, you need to understand what's at stake if you don't act now. Because here's the harsh truth I've observed in my years of teaching and studying human nature. There's a point of no return. Not in your body. Your body is more resilient than you've been told. But in your spirit, if you allow your light to dim for too long, if you spend years reinforcing the belief that your vitality is gone, that belief becomes a prison so strong that even the keys I'm about to hand you won't be enough. You'll hold them, you'll understand what they open, but you won't have the will to turn them. I've seen this tragedy unfold countless times. Women who wait and wait, telling themselves someday they'll make the change. And then one day, they hear that their former husband has found someone new, or they're at a gathering and realize they've become the woman others pity, or they look at their life and see decades stretching ahead, decades of invisibility, irrelevance, loneliness. And the worst part? They realize it didn't have to be this way. The tools were always there. The power was always within them. But they didn't act when they could have. Don't let that be your story. Now, here's where things get even more serious, and I need you to stay with me, because this is where most women make a fatal mistake. They think that aging is the problem. They believe if they could just look younger, everything would be better. So they buy the creams, they consider the procedures, they try the diets. And there's nothing wrong with taking care of your physical vessel. I encourage it. But here's what I've learned from the ancient wisdom. What you're calling aging is actually something far more insidious. It's disconnection. You've disconnected from the source of all vitality, from the flow of divine energy that wants to pour through you. And when that connection severs, it doesn't matter how much collagen you consume or how many miles you walk. You will still feel old because you're experiencing spiritual death while you're still physically alive. Let me go deeper. Do you remember being a young woman? Maybe in your 20s or 30s? Remember how effortless it felt to be alive? You didn't have to try so hard. You didn't wake up questioning your worth. Ideas excited you. The future seemed full of possibility. You had a natural radiance that came from somewhere deep inside. What happened to that? Where did she go? I'll tell you exactly where she went. She got buried under years of giving without receiving, loving without being loved in return, serving without being seen. She got buried under disappointments and betrayals and heartbreaks. She got buried under the weight of being told, subtly and overtly, that her value decreased with each passing year. And eventually, you stopped fighting to keep her alive. You accepted the burial as inevitable. But here's the secret that the Kabbalah has preserved for thousands of years. That woman isn't dead. She's dormant. And with the right practices, the right understanding, the right daily rituals, you can resurrect her. Not as she was at 25, that would be going backward. No, you can resurrect her as an even more powerful version. A woman who combines the wisdom of your years with the vitality of your youth. This is the true fountain of youth that every mystical tradition points toward, and it has nothing to do with turning back the clock. It has everything to do with turning on your light. So let me ask you something, and I want you to answer honestly. even if no one else will ever hear your response. When was the last time you felt truly alive? Not just going through the motions, not just getting through another day, but alive. When your skin felt electric, when your mind was sharp and creative, when you looked in someone's eyes and felt seen, when you laughed from your belly, when you felt that delicious anticipation of what might happen next. If you have to think hard to remember, if you're reaching back months or years, then you understand the urgency of this moment. Because that's not living, that's surviving. And I didn't receive the teachings I'm about to share with you so that you could merely survive. These teachings are about thriving, about radiating, about becoming such a force of life that age becomes irrelevant. Now I'm going to share something with you that might surprise you. In all my years of study, in all the texts I've pored over, in all the meditations I've practiced, I've come to understand this. The universe doesn't care about your age. It truly doesn't. What the universe responds to is your frequency, your vibration, the quality of energy you emit. And here's the beautiful truth, that frequency has nothing to do with the number of years you've been on this earth, and everything to do with how open your channels are to receiving and transmitting divine light. I've witnessed women in their 60s who vibrate at frequencies that would make a 20-year-old envious. And I've seen women in their 30s who have already shut down, contracted, dimmed their light to almost nothing. The difference isn't in their circumstances or their genetics. The difference is in their daily practice, their daily choice to either open or close themselves to life force energy. Are you starting to sense where we're going? Are you beginning to feel that perhaps, just perhaps, you haven't been given the full truth about what's possible for you? Good. Because what I'm about to reveal will require you to question everything you've been told about aging, about desirability, about feminine power. But let me inject another dose of reality here. Because my role is not to comfort you with pleasant lies, it's to shake you awake with difficult truths. While you've been accepting the narrative of decline, while you've been mourning your lost youth, while you've been making yourself smaller and quieter and less vibrant, do you know what's been happening? Life has been reorganizing itself around your diminishment. Your friends have stopped inviting you to certain gatherings because you've become predictable in your negativity. Men have stopped seeing you as a romantic possibility because you've stopped seeing yourself that way. And they're simply responding to the signal you're broadcasting. Opportunities have dried up because you're no longer energetically positioned to receive them. And here's the part that should really wake you up. Right now, at this very moment, there's a woman who was exactly where you are. Maybe she was even in a worse situation. Maybe she'd been divorced longer. Maybe she'd gained more weight. Maybe she'd sunk into a deeper depression. But she made a decision. She encountered these teachings, or teachings like them, and she said, "Enough. Today I begin again." And she committed to what I'm about to share with you. She did it every single day, without exception, without negotiation. And within weeks, people started commenting on how different she seemed. Within months, opportunities that had vanished began reappearing. Within a year, she had completely reconstructed her life. And the most infuriating part for you, that could have been you. That should have been you. But you weren't ready to hear it until now. The question is, are you ready now? Or will you listen to these words, feel inspired for a moment, and then return to the comfortable misery of your current existence? Because I'll tell you something else the Kabbalah teaches. There are gates of opportunity that open at specific times, and if we don't walk through them, they close. Not forever, necessarily, but for a season. And seasons in a human life are precious. You don't have unlimited seasons left to waste. Let me tell you about the first sephira, which we call Keter, the crown. This is the point of connection between your individual consciousness and the infinite source of all creation. When this connection is strong, clear, unobstructed, you receive a direct download of life force energy. You wake up in the morning with vitality that doesn't depend on how many hours you slept. You move through challenges with resilience that doesn't come from positive thinking, but from something far more powerful, from your alignment with the flow of existence itself. But here's what happens to most women as they age. This connection gets covered over. Layer by layer, it gets buried under resentment, under grief, under the weight of playing roles that weren't authentic to their souls. And eventually, they're so disconnected from their crown that they're living entirely from their wounds, entirely from their pain, entirely from their fear. And then they wonder why they feel so tired, why nothing excites them anymore, why they feel 10, 20, 30 years older than their actual age. So here's the first practice I'm going to give you, and I want you to understand. This isn't optional if you want to transform. This isn't something you try when you feel like it. This is non-negotiable, as essential as breathing, as fundamental as eating. Every morning, before you do anything else, before you check your phone, before you make coffee, before you let the concerns of the day invade your consciousness, you're going to reconnect with your crown. Here's exactly how. Sit in a chair with your spine straight. Place both feet flat on the ground. Close your eyes. Take 3 deep breaths, slower than feels natural. Now, imagine a point about 6 inches above the top of your head. This is your crown. Visualize it as a funnel of brilliant white light. And from above, from the infinite source, pure life force energy is pouring down through this funnel into the top of your head, flooding your entire body. With each breath, more light pours in, more vitality, more life. You're not creating this light. You're allowing it, receiving it, opening yourself to what has always been there, waiting for you to access it. Do this for 7 minutes. Not 5, not 10, exactly 7. There's a reason for this precision, rooted in the structure of creation itself. Set a timer if you need to. And during these 7 minutes, your only job is to receive. Not to think about your to-do list, not to solve problems, not to rehearse conversations. Simply receive. Now, I can already hear some of you thinking, 7 minutes? I don't have 7 minutes. And that response tells me everything I need to know about why you feel old. You have 7 minutes to scroll through social media looking at other people's lives. You have 7 minutes to worry about things you cannot control. You have 7 minutes to criticize yourself in the mirror. But you don't have 7 minutes to reconnect with the source of all vitality. Do you hear how insane that is? This is exactly the kind of thinking that keeps women trapped in accelerated aging. They have time for everything except what would actually transform them. And then they're shocked when nothing changes. When another year passes and they feel even more depleted, even more invisible, even more hopeless. Let me tell you what happens when you do this practice consistently. First, within a week, you'll notice your sleep improves. Not because you're tired, but because your nervous system begins to remember what true relaxation feels like. Second, within 2 weeks, people will start commenting on your appearance. They won't be able to identify what's different, but they'll say things like, "You look refreshed," or "Did you change your hair?" What they're actually sensing is that your light has started flowing again. Third, within a month, you'll notice that situations that used to drain you no longer have the same power. You'll have access to reserves of energy you'd forgotten existed. But here's what you need to understand. This is just the beginning. This practice opens the channel. Now we need to address what flows through that channel. This brings me to the second sephira, choshma, which translates as wisdom, but not wisdom as intellectual knowledge. This is the wisdom of the body, the wisdom of intuition, the wisdom that knows without knowing how it knows. In women, this sephira is extraordinarily powerful when it's activated. It's what allows you to walk into a room and immediately sense the undercurrents. It's what tells you who's trustworthy and who isn't. It's what guides you toward right action without needing a logical explanation. But here's what I've observed. Women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s have often spent decades ignoring this wisdom. They've been taught to prioritize everyone else's needs, everyone else's opinions, everyone else's desires. They've learned to override their intuition in favor of being accommodating, being nice, being what others expect. And in doing so, they've severed their connection to this incredible source of feminine power. And when you disconnect from your inner wisdom, something terrible happens. You become prey. Prey to manipulation, to bad relationships, to opportunities that look good on the surface but are actually traps, to people who sense your disconnection and exploit it. You make decisions from fear rather than from knowing. You give your energy to situations and people who don't deserve it. And then you wonder why you're so exhausted, why life feels so hard, why you keep ending up in the same painful patterns. So here's the second daily practice. And this one might be even more challenging than the first because it requires you to trust yourself again. And I know that trust has been shaken. After your 7-minute crown meditation, you're going to ask yourself one question. What does my deepest wisdom want me to know today? And then you're going to sit in silence and listen. Not think, not analyze. Listen. And here's what will happen. At first, you might hear nothing. Or you might hear the voice of your conditioning, your fear, your wounds. But if you persist, if you do this every single day without fail, eventually you'll start hearing something else. A clear, calm, utterly reliable voice that will guide you with precision. This voice will tell you which phone call to make, which invitation to decline, which boundary to set, which risk to take. And when you follow this voice, miracles happen. Not miracles in the sense of supernatural interventions, but miracles in the sense of right alignment, of being in the right place at the right time, of attracting what's meant for you and repelling what isn't. I remember, and I'll share just this one specific story because it illustrates the point so perfectly. There was a time when I was faced with an impossible choice. Logic said one thing, tradition said another, and everyone around me had strong opinions. I could have been paralyzed by the weight of the decision. Instead, I went into deep meditation. I connected with the source of wisdom that flows through all things. And I listened. And the answer came, clear as mountain water. I followed it, even though it made no logical sense at the time, even though people questioned me. And that choice altered the entire trajectory of my path. It led me to the cave, where I would spend years in study, where I would receive the revelations that became the Zohar, where I would transform from a man running from persecution into a vessel for divine light. You have access to this same guidance, every day, in every decision, but only if you practice, only if you commit, only if you choose wisdom over convenience. Now, let's talk about something that's going to make some of you uncomfortable. But discomfort is where growth lives. The third sephira is binah. Understanding, and specifically, understanding of how energy moves in relationship. In Kabbalah, we associate this with the divine feminine principle, with the womb-like space that receives, gestates, and births new realities. And here's what most women don't understand about their own power. You are literally built to create reality through the quality of your receiving. Let me explain what I mean, because this is crucial. The masculine principle in the universe is about giving, transmitting, initiating. The feminine principle is about receiving, transforming, manifesting. They're two sides of the same sacred process. Neither is superior, both are essential. But here's the problem. Women have been taught that receiving is somehow lesser, that it's passive, that it's weak. So they've tried to become more masculine in their approach, more aggressive, more giving in ways that actually block their natural power. And then they complain that men aren't attracted to them anymore, that they feel depleted, that life isn't flowing the way they want. Well, of course it isn't. You're trying to be a transmitter when your design is to be a transformer. You're trying to push when your power lies in your pull. Here's what I mean in practical terms. When you are properly connected to your feminine principle of receiving, you don't chase, you attract. You don't convince, you inspire. You don't beg for love. You become so magnetic that love seeks you out. But to access this power, you have to unlearn decades of conditioning that told you receiving is selfish, that your desires don't matter, that you should shrink yourself to make others comfortable. This is why so many women feel old and undesirable. Not because their bodies have aged, but because they've shut down their receptive power. They've closed themselves off because they've been hurt, because they've learned that opening leads to pain. And in protecting themselves, they've also blocked the flow of everything good that wants to come to them. So here's the third practice. Every day, you're going to consciously practice receiving. This sounds simple, but it's revolutionary. When someone gives you a compliment, instead of deflecting it or minimizing it, you're going to look them in the eye, smile, and say, "Thank you." Just that. No self-deprecating joke. No explanation of why you don't deserve it. When someone offers to help you, you're going to accept. When you feel the impulse to buy yourself flowers, you're going to do it without guilt. When you want to take a bath, to rest, to enjoy something purely for pleasure, you're going to give yourself permission. You're reconditioning yourself to receive. And as you practice receiving the small things, you're opening the channels to receive the big things. Love, abundance, opportunities, recognition, respect, desire. I need to pause here and address something, because I can feel the resistance some of you are experiencing. You're thinking, this sounds too simple. This can't possibly make a real difference. And that thought pattern is exactly why you're stuck. You've been conditioned to believe that transformation has to be complicated, that it requires suffering, that you need to fix 1,000 things before you're allowed to feel good. That's a lie that keeps you trapped. The truth is, profound transformation comes from simple practices done with absolute consistency. Not motivation, consistency. Motivation is an emotion that comes and goes. Consistency is a commitment that transcends emotion. The woman who does these 3 practices every single day for 3 months, even on the days she doesn't feel like it, even on the days she's skeptical, even on the days life is falling apart, that woman will be unrecognizable in the best possible way. The woman who does them when she feels inspired and skips them when she doesn't will get nowhere. Which woman are you going to be? Now, let's address the elephant in the room, men. Because I know for many of you, a significant part of why you want to feel younger is because you want to be desired again. You want to know that you're still attractive, still capable of igniting passion, still relevant in the romantic landscape. And I'm not going to shame you for that desire, because it's a natural, healthy part of being human. But I am going to tell you some hard truths about men that will save you years of wasted effort. Men don't fall in love with your age. They don't fall in love with your face or your body, though those things might initially attract attention. Men fall in love with how they feel in your presence. Read that again. Men fall in love with how they feel in your presence. If a man feels judged, inadequate, like he can never do enough or be enough when he's with you, he will run, regardless of how beautiful you are. If a man feels admired, appreciated, free to be himself, inspired to be his best self when he's with you, he will move heaven and earth to stay, regardless of what you look like. And here's what women who feel old don't understand. The quality of presence you bring has nothing to do with your age and everything to do with your energetic state. When you're disconnected, contracted, bitter, desperate, that creates a certain presence. When you're connected, open, alive, sovereign, that creates an entirely different presence. The second presence is magnetic at any age. The first presence is repelling at any age. So if you want to be desired by men, stop trying to look 25. Start being so connected to your own vitality, so overflowing with life force, so comfortable in your own skin, that men feel better about themselves and about life when they're near you. That's the secret. That's what makes a woman irresistible across decades. And here's what's cruel but true. If you don't cultivate this quality in yourself, if you spend your energy on resentment and bitterness and self-pity, there's a woman out there who will. There's a woman who's doing the work, who's opening her channels, who's reconnecting with her light. And the man you want will find her. And you'll sit there wondering what she has that you don't, and the answer will be simple. She made a different choice. She chose vitality over victimhood. She chose practice over complaining. She chose to bloom instead of wilt. Is that harsh? Yes. Is it true? Absolutely. And I love you enough to tell you the truth instead of the comfortable lies that keep you stuck. Let me take you deeper into the tree of life, into the sephirot that govern your everyday experience. The fourth is chesed, often translated as mercy or loving kindness. This is the energy of expansion, of generosity, of flowing outward. When this is balanced, this is in you. You give freely without resentment. You express love easily. You see the best in others. When it's imbalanced, you either give until you're depleted, or you shut down and give nothing. Most women I've encountered are operating with an imbalanced chesed. They've given and given and given to ungrateful children, to absent partners, to demanding jobs, to everyone except themselves, until their well ran dry. And then they swung to the other extreme. They hardened. They became stingy with their love. They built walls. And they call this protecting themselves. But really, they're just dying slowly behind those walls. Here's what you need to understand. True loving kindness begins with yourself. Not in a selfish, narcissistic way, but in a fundamental honoring of your own being. When you treat yourself with genuine kindness, not indulgence, but kindness, you create a reservoir that naturally overflows to others without depleting you. So the fourth practice. Every day, you're going to do one thing that is purely kind to yourself. Not productive, not self-improvement, not earning anything, just kind. Maybe it's 10 minutes of stretching your body with appreciation for all it does. Maybe it's eating something delicious mindfully, savoring every bite. Maybe it's speaking to yourself the way you would speak to a beloved friend. Maybe it's forgiving yourself for something you've been carrying guilt about for years. One act of self-kindness every day. This practice reprograms your relationship with yourself, And when you become someone who treats herself with kindness, you stop accepting unkindness from others. You stop tolerating relationships that diminish you. You stop settling for less than you deserve. This one shift changes everything. The fifth sephira is Gevura, which translates as strength or severity. The ability to set boundaries, to say no, to cut away what doesn't serve. This is the sword that protects the sacred. And I'll tell you right now, most women who feel old and used up have never learned to wield this sword. They've been taught that boundaries are unkind, that saying no is selfish, that cutting people off is cruel. So they let everyone take and take and take until there's nothing left. Listen to me carefully. Without Gevura, without the ability to protect your energy, all the other practices I'm giving you will fail. You'll open your channels, you'll start receiving, you'll practice kindness, and then someone will come along and drain it all away because you don't have the strength to say, no, not anymore, not with me. This is especially crucial for women in your age group because you've often spent decades being everyone's everything. And now, when you're finally at a point where you could reclaim yourself, everyone expects you to keep playing that role. Your adult children expect you to drop everything when they need help. Your friends expect you to be their therapist. Your family expects you to host, to organize, to smooth over conflicts. And if you try to pull back, they guilt you. They call you selfish. They make you feel like you're doing something wrong. But here's the truth that will set you free. It's not selfish to have boundaries. It's not cruel to protect your energy. It's not wrong to prioritize your own well-being. In fact, it's essential. Because when you're depleted, when you've given everything away, you have nothing of value to offer anyone, not even yourself. So the fifth practice. Every day, you're going to practice saying no to something. Start small if you need to. No to that obligation you've been dreading. No to that phone call from the person who only calls when they need something. No to scrolling social media when you know it makes you feel bad. No to staying in a conversation that's draining you. No to tolerating disrespect in any form. Each no strengthens your Gevura. Each no tells the universe, I know my worth. I protect what's precious. And interestingly, when you start wielding this sword, something miraculous happens. The people who truly love you respect you more, not less. The people who are using you reveal themselves and fall away. And space opens up for relationships that actually nourish you instead of depleting you. Now we come to the sixth sephira, Tiferet, beauty or harmony, the integration point where all the other energies balance. This is where your true essence shines through, where you stop performing and start being. When Tiferet is activated, you have a quality that's unmistakable. You walk into a room and people feel something, though they can't name it. This is the radiance that has nothing to do with makeup or clothing, and everything to do with alignment. You know what kills Tiferet? Incongruence. Living a life that doesn't match your truth. Pretending to be someone you're not. Betraying yourself in small ways every day to keep the peace or maintain appearances. Every time you say yes when you mean no. Every time you smile when you're dying inside. Every time you perform an emotion you don't feel. You're dimming your beauty at the deepest level. And this is why so many women feel ugly as they age, even when objectively they're still attractive. It's not their faces. It's the incongruence that's aged them. They've spent so many years being who everyone else needed them to be that they've lost touch with who they actually are. And that loss shows in their eyes, in their posture, in the heaviness that surrounds them. The sixth practice. Every day, in at least one interaction, You're going to be radically authentic. You're going to say what you actually think instead of what you think you should say. You're going to express what you actually feel instead of the socially acceptable emotion. You're going to make a choice based on your truth instead of others' expectations. Will this be uncomfortable? Absolutely. Will some people not like it? Guaranteed. But here's what will also happen. You'll start remembering who you are. That woman you buried years ago will start fighting her way back to the surface. And the more authentic you become, the more your true beauty emerges. Not the painted-on, performed beauty, the real thing, the kind that makes people stop and really see you. I want to pause and ask you something. How are you feeling right now as you listen to this? If you're feeling uncomfortable, challenged, maybe even angry, good. That means these truths are penetrating the armor you've built around your resigned acceptance of diminishment. If you're feeling hopeful, excited, like maybe there's a path forward, even better. But if you're feeling skeptical, if you're thinking, this all sounds nice, but it won't work for me because my situation is different, then I need you to hear this. That thought is the death of your transformation. Your situation is not special. Your wounds are not unique. Your circumstances do not exempt you from the universal principles that govern energy, vitality, and attraction. Every woman who has transformed herself from feeling old and invisible to feeling vital and magnetic went through the same resistance you're experiencing right now. The only difference between her and you is that she pushed through the resistance, and you're still negotiating with it. Let me share something with you about the work I did in that cave, spending years away from the distractions of ordinary life, diving deep into the mysteries of existence. There were countless moments when I wanted to give up, when it seemed too hard, when I questioned everything. But I had a realization that changed everything. The universe only gives you what you're willing to receive, and you're only willing to receive what you believe you deserve. If deep down you believe you deserve to feel old, used up, invisible, that's exactly what you'll receive, no matter what practices you try. But if you can shift that core belief, if you can convince yourself at the deepest level that you deserve to feel vibrant, desired, alive, the universe will move heaven and earth to deliver that to you. So before we go any further, I need you to make a decision. Are you willing to believe that you deserve vitality? Are you willing to believe that your best years aren't behind you? Are you willing to believe that you're worthy of love, desire, respect, and joy, regardless of your age? Because if you're not willing to believe these things, then all the practices in the world won't help you. But if you are willing, even if you don't fully believe it yet, even if you have to fake it at first, then we can work with that. Willingness is enough to start. Let's continue with the tree of life. The seventh sephira is Netzach, translated as victory or eternity, the realm of passion, creativity, and the instinctual drives. This is where your life force expresses itself as desire, as creative impulse, as the sheer will to experience pleasure and beauty. And I'll tell you, something that might shock you. Most women have completely shut down their Netzach by the time they reach midlife. Why? Because passion has been punished. Because desire has been shamed. Because somewhere along the way, they learned that wanting things makes you vulnerable, that expressing desire makes you needy, that pursuing pleasure makes you selfish. So they closed that part of themselves down. They became practical, sensible, responsible, all fine qualities, but not when they completely eclipse your passion. And a woman without access to her passion is like a candle without flame. She might look like a candle, she might be made of all the right materials, but there's no light, no warmth, nothing that draws others near. This is the real secret to why women feel old. Not because their bodies have aged, but because they've extinguished their own flame. They've decided that passion is for younger women, that desire is inappropriate at their age, that they should be past all that. But here's what Kabbalah teaches. Passion isn't about age. It's about connection to life force. And life force doesn't diminish with years unless you block it. I've seen women in their 70s with more passion than women in their 20s because they never shut that channel down. They continued to allow themselves to want, to desire, to feel excited about life. The seventh practice. Every day, you're going to do something that ignites your passion. Not what you think you should do, not what's productive, what excites you. Maybe it's dancing to music that moves you. Maybe it's cooking something delicious with full presence. Maybe it's creating something with your hands. Maybe it's dressing in a way that makes you feel beautiful, even if you're just going to the grocery store. Maybe it's engaging in a conversation about something you're genuinely curious about. The specific activity doesn't matter. What matters is that you're feeding the flame, reminding yourself that you're allowed to want things, to enjoy things, to be excited about things. Each time you do this, you're telling your body and your spirit, I'm not done. I'm still here. I still want to experience everything this life has to offer. And watch what happens. Within weeks of consistently feeding your passion, you'll notice your energy shifts. You'll start having ideas again. You'll start feeling attraction again, both being attractive and feeling attracted. Colors will seem brighter. Food will taste better. Life will feel worth living again, not just worth enduring. The eighth sephira is Hod, splendor, the realm of communication, of how you express yourself in the world. This is about the stories you tell, about yourself and about your life. And I'm going to be brutally honest here. Most women your age are telling terrible stories. Stories of decline, of loss, of how things used to be better, of all the ways life has disappointed them. And these stories are literally aging them. Every time you say, I'm too old for that, you're casting a spell of limitation. Every time you compare yourself now to how you were decades ago, you're reinforcing a narrative of deterioration. Every time you speak about your body, your face, your life with disgust or resignation, you're programming your cells to match that story. In Kabbalah, we understand that words have creative power. The same divine speech that brought the universe into being flows through your mouth every time you speak. When you speak life, vitality, possibility, you create those things. When you speak death, decline, impossibility, you create those things too. So the eighth practice, you're going to change your story. Specifically, you're going to eliminate certain phrases from your vocabulary completely. No more, I'm too old. No more, if only I was younger. No more, my best years are behind me. No more, I'm invisible now. These phrases are poison, and every time you speak them, you're drinking that poison. Instead, you're going to start speaking the story of who you're becoming. I'm just getting started. I'm in my power now. I have wisdom now that I didn't have before. I'm discovering what I'm truly capable of. At first, these might feel like lies. You might not believe them. Say them anyway. Because here's the secret. You don't have to believe your new story for it to start creating new reality. You just have to speak it consistently, and reality will slowly begin to conform to your words. Pay attention to how you introduce yourself, how you describe your life when people ask, how you talk about your future. Are you speaking possibility or limitation? Are you speaking aliveness or deadness? Your words are creating your experience far more than you realize. Now, the ninth Sephirah is Yesod, foundation, the realm of connection, particularly intimate connection, both with others and with yourself. This is where fantasy, imagination, and bonding reside. And here's something crucial that most women don't understand. Your capacity for intimacy doesn't decrease with age unless you actively close yourself off to it. But that's exactly what happens. After heartbreak, after betrayal, after years of unfulfilling relationships, women build walls. They tell themselves they're being smart, protecting themselves. And yes, sometimes boundaries are necessary. But there's a difference between healthy boundaries and walls so thick that nothing can get through. Not love, not connection, not intimacy of any kind. And then these same women wonder why they feel lonely, why men don't pursue them, why they can't form deep friendships. The answer is simple. They're broadcasting unavailable at an energetic level. They might say they want connection, but their entire being is screaming, "Stay away." The ninth practice is perhaps the most vulnerable. Every day, you're going to practice opening your heart. Just a little. In safe ways at first. Make eye contact with people and really see them. Have a conversation where you share something true about yourself, not just surface pleasantries. Reach out to someone you've been thinking about. Express appreciation to someone. Let someone see your struggle, your humanness, without immediately following it up with, "But I'm fine." You're practicing opening instead of closing. And yes, this feels risky. Yes, you might get hurt. But I'll tell you what's even more painful than the risk of getting hurt. The certainty of dying without ever having truly lived, without ever having let yourself be fully seen, without ever having experienced the kind of soul-deep connection that makes life sacred. The risk of opening is worth it. Always. Finally, we come to the 10th Sephirah, Malchut Kingdom, the realm of manifestation, of physical reality, of how all the higher energies express themselves in the material world. This is your body, your home, your daily life, your tangible circumstances. And here's what you need to understand. Malkut is where all your inner work shows up or doesn't. You can do all the meditation, all the inner work, all the energetic practices. But if you're not attending to your physical reality, if your body is neglected, if your environment is chaotic, if your daily habits are destructive, then you're blocking the manifestation of everything you're trying to create. This is why the 10th practice is so practical. Every day, you're going to honor your body and your environment. This means moving your body in some way that feels good. Not punishing exercise, but movement that celebrates what your body can do. This means nourishing yourself with food that actually sustains you, not emotional eating or deprivation. This means creating beauty in your environment, even small touches. This means going to bed at a decent hour. This means drinking water. This means standing up straight. This means wearing clothes that make you feel good, not just comfortable. These sound basic, almost too simple to matter. But here's the truth. How you treat your physical reality is a direct reflection of how you value yourself. When you neglect your body, your space, your basic needs, you're saying, "I don't matter enough to care for." And if that's the message you're sending yourself, why would anyone else value you? But when you start honoring Malkut, when you start treating your body as the temple it is, when you start creating beauty in your environment, when you start moving through the world with physical presence and dignity. Something shifts. You start embodying the vitality you're cultivating energetically. People notice. Opportunities appear. Your entire life begins to reflect the inner transformation. Now, I need to address something crucial. You've been listening to me for quite a while now, and I've given you 10 daily practices. And I can almost hear what you're thinking. 10 things? Every day? That's too much. I can't do all of that. And you're right. If you're approaching this from a place of obligation, of adding more items to your already overwhelming to-do list, this won't work. But that's not what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to fundamentally reorganize your life around what actually matters. These 10 practices aren't extra things you need to fit in around your current life. These 10 practices are your life now. Everything else is extra. Think about it this way. How much time do you currently spend on activities that make you feel worse? How many hours go to scrolling social media, watching television you don't even enjoy, worrying about things you can't control, having conversations that drain you, doing things out of obligation that serve no one? If you added up all that time, you'd realize you have more than enough for these practices. The question isn't whether you have time. It's whether you're willing to prioritize differently. And here's what I've observed. Women who commit to these practices for 90 days without exception report that they actually have more time than before. Why? Because when you're operating from vitality instead of depletion, when you're aligned instead of fragmented, when you're saying no to what drains you and yes to what enlivens you, everything becomes more efficient. You need less sleep because the sleep you get is restorative. You need less food because you're actually nourishing yourself. You need less entertainment because your life itself becomes engaging. But you have to commit, not try, not see if it works. Commit for 90 days. And here's my challenge to you. What do you have to lose? If you continue on your current path, where will you be in 90 days? Exactly where you are now, probably feeling even worse. But if you commit to these practices for 90 days, even if you're skeptical, even if you don't see immediate results, I guarantee you'll be in a completely different place. Physically, emotionally, energetically, spiritually. So will you make that commitment? Will you decide that for the next 90 days, these 10 practices are non-negotiable? That's 13 weeks, 91 days, 2,160 hours. That's what stands between you and a complete transformation. And if you're still hesitating, let me paint you 2 pictures of your future. Picture 1. You're 1 year from now. You didn't commit to these practices. You listened to this, maybe you felt inspired for a day or two. But then you fell back into your old patterns. You're still feeling old, invisible, irrelevant. You're watching from the sidelines as life happens to other people. You're still stuck in the same relationship patterns, the same self-defeating thoughts, the same resigned acceptance of decline. And the worst part? You know it didn't have to be this way. You had the tools. You just didn't use them. Now picture 2. You're 1 year from now. You committed to these practices. The first month was hard. You had to fight your resistance, reorganize your priorities, disappoint some people who were used to having unlimited access to your energy. But you persisted. And somewhere around day 40, something shifted. You started waking up with energy. People started commenting on how good you looked. A man you'd written off as uninterested suddenly started pursuing you. An opportunity you thought had passed you by reappeared. And you realized, this is what being alive feels like. Now it's been a year. When you look in the mirror, you don't see an old woman looking back. You see power. You see vitality. You see a woman who knows her worth. Your relationships have completely transformed. You've released the ones that were draining you, and the ones that remain are deeper, more authentic, more nourishing. You're doing things you love, pursuing passions you'd set aside, feeling excitement about your future instead of dread. And when you meet people, they're drawn to you in a way they haven't been in years. You've become magnetic again, not because you look 25, but because you're so vibrantly alive that age has become irrelevant. Which future do you want? Because the choice you make right now, in this moment, determines which picture becomes your reality. Now let me address something that I know is weighing on some of you. You're thinking about that relationship that ended, that man who left, that betrayal that broke you. And part of you is thinking, if I transform myself, if I become this vital, magnetic woman, maybe he'll come back. Maybe he'll see what he lost. I need to tell you something, and it might not be what you want to hear. That's not why you do this work. You don't transform yourself to get someone back. You transform yourself to get yourself back. Whether he returns or not is irrelevant to your vitality. In fact, if you do this work properly, if you really reconnect with your power, you might discover that you don't even want him back. You might realize that relationship was actually blocking you from your full radiance. Or he might come back, and you'll have to decide whether you want to allow someone who couldn't recognize your value when he had it back into your life. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't getting them back. It's no longer needing them. But here's what I can promise you. When you do this work, when you become that vital, radiant woman, there will be men who want you. Maybe better men. Maybe men who actually have the capacity to cherish what you offer. Maybe men you haven't even met yet who are waiting for you to step into this version of yourself. And even if there are no men, even if you end up alone, you'll be alone as a woman who loves her life, who enjoys her own company, who's created a rich, beautiful existence. That's infinitely better than being with someone while still feeling old, invisible, and dead inside. Let me go deeper into something I haven't fully addressed yet. The relationship between physical appearance and energetic radiance. Because I know some of you are thinking, this is all well and good, but at the end of the day, I still look 57. My skin has wrinkles. My body has changed. No amount of energy work is going to change that. And you're right, these practices won't turn you 25 again. But here's what they will do. They'll make your age irrelevant. Let me explain what I mean by that. There's a certain kind of beauty that exists independent of youth. It's the beauty of a woman who's lived, who's learned, who's suffered and survived, who's developed wisdom and depth and character. When this beauty is combined with vitality, with open channels of energy, with life force flowing freely, it's more powerful than any youthful beauty. Because youthful beauty is accidental. This beauty is earned. And deep down, everyone recognizes the difference. I've seen women in their 60s who are more beautiful than they were in their 20s. Not because they look younger, they don't. But because they've integrated all their experiences, they've healed their wounds, they've opened their channels. And what shines through their faces is so compelling that you can't look away. Their wrinkles tell stories of laughter. Their gray hair is a crown of wisdom. Their bodies carry the dignity of temples that have housed souls for decades. This is the beauty you're cultivating with these practices. Not the beauty of youth, which is fleeting and superficial. but the beauty of a soul fully expressed in flesh. And I promise you, this beauty attracts depth. It attracts maturity. It attracts people who are capable of recognizing real value. But, and this is important, you can't perform this beauty. You can't fake it. It only comes from genuine inner work. This is why I keep emphasizing the daily practices, the consistency, the commitment. Because this kind of beauty is built day by day, choice by choice, practice by practice. There are no shortcuts. Now, let me address the practical question of what to do when you encounter resistance. And you will encounter resistance. It will come from multiple sources. First, it will come from within. Your own conditioning, your own fears, your own attachment to the familiar story of your life will fight you. You'll find yourself forgetting to do the practices, making excuses, convincing yourself you're too busy or too tired. This is your old self fighting for survival. Every identity, even a painful one, resists transformation, because transformation means death of the old self. When this internal resistance comes up, don't fight it. Don't shame yourself for it. Simply notice it. Say to yourself, there's the resistance. There's the part of me that would rather stay small and safe than risk growing. And then do the practice anyway. Not from willpower, but from commitment. There's a difference. Willpower is about forcing yourself. Commitment is about honoring a decision you've already made. Willpower depletes. Commitment sustains. The second source of resistance will come from the people around you. This might surprise you, but the people closest to you often have the most investment in you, staying exactly as you are. Not because they're malicious, but because your transformation threatens their stability. If you change, they might have to change. If you set boundaries, they'll have to respect them. If you stop playing your role in the family system, the whole system has to reorganize. So expect pushback. Expect people to question your new practices. Expect them to mock your commitment or try to make you feel guilty for prioritizing yourself. Expect them to test your boundaries to see if you're serious. And know this: how you handle this resistance will determine whether your transformation succeeds or fails. You must be immovable, kind, but immovable. You can explain once if you choose to, but you don't owe anyone justification for choosing to honor yourself. And when they push back, and they will, you simply hold your ground. I understand this is different for you. I'm doing it anyway. Over time, they'll either adjust to the new you, or they'll fall away. Both outcomes are fine. The third source of resistance will come from life itself. Unexpected crises will arise right when you're building momentum. You'll get sick. Someone you love will need help. Work will become overwhelming. This is not coincidence. This is the universe testing your commitment. Are you serious about this transformation, or is it just another thing you'll abandon when life gets hard? Pass these tests by continuing your practices, even when, especially when, life is chaotic. Even if you have to modify them, even if you can only do 5 minutes instead of your full routine, keep the thread unbroken. Because what you're building here isn't just a set of practices, it's a new identity. And that identity is forged in the fire of consistency through challenge. I want to share something personal with you. During my years in the cave, studying the deepest mysteries of existence, there were many times when maintaining my practice seemed impossible. Physical discomfort, mental exhaustion, spiritual darkness, all of it conspired to make me quit. And I learned something crucial. The moments when you least feel like doing the practice are the moments when the practice is most important. Because those are the moments when you're actually transforming, when you're breaking through old patterns, when you're creating new neural pathways and energetic channels. The easy days don't transform you. The hard days do. So when you wake up and every fiber of your being is screaming to skip your practice, that's when you know it's working. That's when the old self is dying and the new self is being born. And if you can show up anyway, if you can honor your commitment anyway, you emerge from that day stronger than you've ever been. Let me also address the question of what happens after 90 days. Because 90 days of consistent practice will create remarkable changes, but it's not the end. It's the beginning. After 90 days, these practices should have become woven into the fabric of your life. They're no longer things you have to force yourself to do. They're just how you live. The morning meditation is as natural as brushing your teeth. The boundary setting is as automatic as breathing. The daily passion practice is as essential as eating. And from this foundation, you continue to grow. You might add new practices. You might deepen existing ones. You might start exploring more advanced teachings. But the foundation remains the same. Daily connection to Source, daily honoring of your energy, daily expression of your truth. This is how you build a life of sustained vitality, not through dramatic changes that fade, but through small, consistent actions that compound over time. This is how a woman transforms from feeling old and invisible to feeling vital and magnetic. Not through magic, but through practice. Not through luck, but through commitment. Now I want to speak to something tender, something that might make you cry, and that's okay. I want to speak to the part of you that remembers. The part of you that remembers being a little girl who was full of dreams and possibilities. The part of you that remembers being a young woman who believed anything was possible. The part of you that remembers moments of pure joy, pure love, pure aliveness. Before life taught you to be careful, to be small, to be realistic. That part of you isn't gone. She's been waiting for you to be ready to let her out again. Waiting for you to be strong enough to protect her this time. Waiting for you to be wise enough to honor her desires without letting them destroy you. And these practices are how you call her back. How you give her permission to be expressed again. How you integrate her innocence with your wisdom, her passion with your discernment, her dreams with your capability. This is the real fountain of youth. Reconnecting with that essential self while bringing all your accumulated wisdom to bear. You're not trying to be who you were at 25. You're becoming who you were always meant to be. That young woman's dreams fulfilled by this mature woman's power. Can you feel her? That young version of you? Can you sense her stirring as you listen to these words? She's been asleep for so long, but she's starting to wake up. And she's asking you, are you ready now? Are you finally ready to let me live again? And I'm asking you the same question. Are you ready? Are you ready to stop performing death and start living life? Are you ready to stop accepting the lie of decline and start embracing the truth of perpetual renewal? Are you ready to do whatever it takes, for as long as it takes, to reclaim your vitality? Because if you are, everything I've shared with you will work. Not because I'm special, not because these teachings are magic, but because they're aligned with the fundamental principles of how energy moves in this universe. They're aligned with the architecture of creation itself. When you work with these principles instead of against them, transformation is inevitable. But if you're not ready, if you're still attached to your story of limitation, if you're still getting something out of being a victim of age and circumstance, then these words will be interesting, but ultimately ineffective. And that's okay too. Readiness can't be forced. But know this, the invitation will always be here. When you're ready, these teachings will still work. The practices will still transform you. The possibility will still be available. The question is, why wait? What are you waiting for? Permission? You have it. The perfect time? There is no perfect time. There's only now. To feel better? You won't feel better until you start doing the work that makes you better. So I'm going to ask you to make a choice right now. Not tomorrow, not when things calm down, not when you feel more motivated. Right now. Choose. Choose vitality or choose decline. Choose transformation or choose stagnation. Choose to honor yourself or choose to abandon yourself again. Choose to step into the practices that will resurrect you or choose to continue attending your own living funeral. And if you choose transformation, if you choose vitality, if you choose to say yes to these practices, then I want you to make it real. I want you to say it out loud, even if you're alone. Say, I commit to my vitality. I commit to these practices. I commit to showing up for myself every day for the next 90 days, no matter what. Say it out loud. Let the vibration of those words move through your body. Let your ears hear your own voice making that declaration. Make it real. And then, here's the crucial part. Start immediately. Don't wait for tomorrow morning to begin your morning practice. Do something right now. Stand up and move your body. Speak a new story about yourself. Set a boundary with someone. Do one small act of self-kindness. Take one action right now that aligns with the woman you're becoming rather than the woman you've been. Because that action, that immediate movement toward your commitment, is what breaks the pattern. That's what tells your subconscious mind you're serious this time. That's what begins the momentum that will carry you through the inevitable challenges ahead. Let me leave you with one final teaching from Kabbalah that ties everything together. We teach that the world was created through 10 utterances, 10 divine words. Let there be light. Let there be an expanse. Each utterance brought forth a new level of reality. And you are made in the divine image. You too have the power to create reality through your words, through your intentions, through your committed actions. The life you've been living was created by the words you've been speaking, the beliefs you've been holding, the actions you've been taking. If you don't like that life, you don't have to stay in it. You can speak new words. You can hold new beliefs. You can take new actions. And those new inputs will create a new reality. It won't happen overnight, but it will happen. As surely as a seed planted in good soil will eventually produce fruit, your consistent practice will produce transformation. You are not too old. You are not too damaged. You are not too far gone. These are lies you've been telling yourself, and you can stop telling them anytime you choose. The truth is, you are a divine being temporarily housed in a human body, and that divine aspect of you is ageless, limitless, infinitely creative. When you reconnect with that truth, when you live from that truth, age becomes just a number with no power over your vitality. So here's my blessing for you. The blessing I would give to anyone who has truly heard what I've shared today. May you wake tomorrow with the courage to begin. May you find the strength to continue when it's hard. May you experience the joy of transformation as it unfolds. May you remember your divine nature even in moments of doubt. May you attract all that serves your highest good and repel all that doesn't. May you become a beacon of vitality that lights the way for others. And may you live every remaining day of your life fully alive, fully awake, fully expressed. You have everything you need. You've always had it. You just forgot. These practices will help you remember. And in that remembering, you'll discover that feeling 10 years younger was just the beginning. What's actually possible is to feel timeless, to step outside the linear progression of decline entirely, to live in perpetual renewal, to become more vibrant with each passing year rather than less. This is your birthright. This is what you were created for. Not to diminish, but to burn brighter and brighter until your last breath. And then to return to the source from which you came. Not depleted, but fulfilled. Not exhausted, but satisfied. Knowing you lived fully, loved deeply, and expressed completely the unique divine spark that is you. So go now. Begin. The practices are simple. The commitment is everything. Your future self, the one who is vital, magnetic, fully alive, is waiting for you to take the first step. She's been waiting for so long. Don't make her wait any longer. I am Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and I have given you what I know to be true. That vitality is a choice, that age is negotiable, that your light can burn brightly at any stage of life if you're willing to tend it. The rest is up to you. Make it count.